Everyone is speaking out about this as we have multiple Houston Rockets updates heading into playoffs, with the Rockets secured as the number 2 seed in the Western Conference and the most confident team in the entire NBA heading into playoff season. Welcome in here to Rockets Digest. I'm Jace Andrews, and if you love Rockets content, you're in the right place. Be a part of the first 100 subscribers and hit that subscribe button down low. All right, the playoffs is here. 2025 NBA playoffs regular season is done, and we now enter into the best time of the year for the NBA playoff season, and more specifically, we have the play-in tournament happening in the next couple days, which the Rockets, being the 2 seed, will play one of the play-in members. It'll be either Memphis or the Warriors, but the topic of this video is more or less going to be on the confidence of the Houston Rockets, because for such a young team, sometimes you don't really know what to expect out of them heading into the playoffs, not really knowing what this team is going to be like. Obviously, having a great regular season is good, but moving into the playoffs, how is that dynamic going to change? How are the emotions going to be different? Well, Thompson spoke about this after the game, and I want to look at this. We go into his first quote here saying, quote, "It's super important, as you can't run from anybody when you're trying to win championships. You got to meet the best at the top," end quote. And we start with this one saying that you have to meet the best teams at the top. And basically what he's kind of going with here is that you have to be able and be ready to play the top teams if you want to be a top team, which the Rockets believe they are. And we'll get into more on that in just a minute, what Amin said to show that the confidence is there with these kids. Nobody is lacking confidence on this Houston Rockets roster. But the bigger thing is, when you look at the Rockets' record against some of the top teams in the NBA as a whole, this is just a small kind of look at here of the 2024-2025 season of the Houston Rockets versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Celtics, who are the reigning champs, and the Lakers, who are right now the 3 seed in the Western Conference, obviously now in the playoffs. So obviously there's different games to kind of go through, but losing to OKC at OKC in what was a not highly contested contest, but I think it was a young part of the year. They ended up bouncing back by beating Oklahoma City, which, by the way, that game is the one I'm going to look at the most, because that's when the Rockets were starting to hit their stride in December. They started to look like a 2 seed potential. And then they also were facing the Oklahoma City Thunder in what was a full roster. So that was great. You lose to OKC on December 14th. You lose to Boston. You beat the Lakers. You beat Boston in January. You have a tough little end of the season against the top teams, losing to OKC in LA. Winning OKC, I'm not going to count that one, though. That was a game that OKC already clinched the 2 seed. Kind of like the past couple games, didn't really matter for the Rockets. Not really any of the last 5, 6, 7 games really mattered for the Thunder. Same thing with the Lakers game. It really didn't matter. So overall, though, the record is about 500 in terms of playing these top teams. And obviously, Thompson talking about the most recent success of the Houston Rockets, and, looking at this team from the start of the win streak has been a fantastic time. And that's where I think the quote kind of takes a different turn, and we go into the second one where the confidence shows. Saying, quote, "I think if we play our game, we can beat anybody. So we're not even worried about those other teams, just as we don't know who we are going to play for another 2 days, end quote. So I take 2 things from this. First of all, he's excited for the playoffs. That's pretty apparent. He's amped. He wants to go. The second thing I take from this is they are going to be ready for whoever they end up playing between Memphis and Golden State. The third thing and the final thing that I think is showing, he says that they can take on anybody. They're not worried about other teams right now. We can beat anybody. I mean, that quote right there, that one little line, the confidence is there with this young squad. And I think that's really pushed because of Ime Udoka. And obviously he makes them keep a level head. But at the same time, when you are going into a postseason where you are the 2 seed, where last year you were 500, the year before that you weren't even close to sniffing any type of success, forget 500, there's going to be some emotional switches. There is going to be some high-stakes moments that you haven't really played on. While this year, there was some high-stakes moments. Obviously, getting the 2 seed, there was some times. But really the Rockets had control of the 2 seed for, I'm going to say, majority of the year, if not pretty much all of it. The only time where it got a little, I'm not going to say dicey, but was when that win streak started. So if you want to quote anything, it's that whenever the times have been tough, they've been even better. And this is where I want to try and dive a little more in depth to these matchups against the top teams in the NBA. Let's first go against the champion of last year. Back on January 3rd, they played them, and they lost. That was in Houston, 109-86, which Boston's a tough team to face for any team. Just the way they were able to shoot threes. And if you remember that game, it was a lot of threes being shot by all the Celtics, and they hit a bunch of them. But the thing that I look at is they went to Boston then on January 27th and beat them. They learned from the game that they played against the Celtics. They went out there and they beat them. So that is team number 1 that I want to look at. Cleveland is another team I want to look at, and I think this part of the season was where the switch was flipped on the Rockets to where they weren't just a 2 seed, they are now a title contender. This is where the switch was flipped. You play Cleveland, not just in a very close proximity to each other. These were back-to-back games, at home and then at Cleveland. And you beat them in close contests in both games, 109-108 in the first game, and then 135-131 in the second game. By the way, scoring 135 points on the road against Cleveland, and scoring 109 and holding a very competitive offense to 108 at your home. This is where the season really switched and the confidence for everybody started to show. Obviously, after this, the Fred VanVleet injury happened. The win streak kind of got started actually at the very tail end of VanVleet's injury, so that's a positive thing. But the Cleveland back-to-back game, I know it wasn't back-to-back days, but you play them in back-to-back contests, was such a huge momentum shift, and I think is a big reason why Thompson and the entire Rockets organization has confidence in this team. Because when they play their best, when they are key, and when Ime Udoka has time to go out there, scout the opponent, and have a game plan up for him, I really think he is one of the toughest coaches to beat when you have a day or two's rest. And we saw that throughout the season. The one part where the Rockets struggled this year was in back-to-back games. Guess what? In the playoffs, you're going to get days to scout for that opponent. You're going to get days to plan for each opponent, especially given you get to watch the game tomorrow between the Grizzlies and the Warriors, and then you get to dissect them and make a game plan for them. And I want to get to that in a second, but let's go back to these top teams here. And you look at the Thunder. This is the concerning part about this, and that's why I want to look at that December 1st game the most. 119-116. OKC was playing every one of their starters, and you beat them. That was at home. Every game in OKC, you lost. Every game in Houston, you won. But the problem I have with it, the game you won in Houston was a game that the Thunder did not care about. They did not care about that game. They were already a 1 seed. They already clinched. It didn't matter. That was the end of the story. They didn't matter. So the games in OKC where you lose by nearly 20 points in November, where you lose by, again, 15 points on the 14th of December, and then you lose in March to, again, a little closer margin, but still nearly double digits. It's something to look at. Now, again, that's so far in the future, and you got to look at opponents right now, and the confidence has to be there. The OKC Thunder, though, are the team that scare me the most, and that's just not the Western Conference. That's the entire NBA. Yes, the Western Conference is a bloodbath, so whoever makes it to the finals is going to have a tough time, just simply put, because they're going to have to get so many more tough games than the Eastern Conference will have when they get there. However, I do think the Thunder are the most scary team. So if you can take them out, I actually believe you have a really good shot against whoever you might play in the finals. And then I quickly want to take a look at Thompson's stats because he's been having confidence lately, not just in his interviews, but in his game. And it's really been a key to the Rockets' success. There was a point in this season where Ime Udoka basically said, if they get a shot on Thompson and it goes in, I'm upset. That was a real thing that Ime Udoka basically was saying. And his defense has been impeccable. His stats, obviously, averaging almost over 14 points per game. Rebounds are great. Obviously, you're one of the top rebounding teams in the entire NBA. this is a great player, and he is having a breakout year. And now with the confidence, I'm hoping he can continue that into the playoffs. Before we kind of get off here, I want to go with the teams that we will see in the playing game and the Rockets' record against them. So, obviously, with Memphis and Golden State playing tomorrow night, those will be one of your opponents. Most recently, you did play the Golden State Warriors. That was in Golden State, 106-96. That was when Steph Curry went absolutely solid cold. I think he shot like 1 for 11 behind the arch. Could not hit a 3 to save his life. But prior to that, I mean, you lost one against Golden State in Houston in what was a pretty close game. Lost a very close game to Memphis. You obviously won 2 against Memphis, and in fact, Memphis, if you play them, you technically have a 3-1 record in the 4 games you play with them. For Golden State, you end up having a 2-3 record against them over the entire contest of the year, with your wins being 1 in Golden State, 1 at home, but you also lost a couple games away of them as well. So that's really the, what's said and done about all that is both these teams you've seen success for. Steph Curry poses a problem because if he's hot, Golden State can get going. So in my mind, yes, Ja Morant poses a threat to the Houston Rockets. But if I'm watching tomorrow's game and I have to be rooting for a team, I think I'm rooting for Memphis because I think the Rockets match up better with the Memphis Grizzlies than they do Golden State. I think Thompson, I think Alperen Şengün, I think the entire team just feels better when that is the team you're going to play rather than Golden State, where if you have a Curry night where he goes off, that can change the dynamic of a game. So that's what I think. But again, let me know in the comment section, who would you rather face in the first round of the playoffs? Who would you like to see win in that playing game, Golden State or Memphis? Let me know down in the comment section below. But that is it for me and Rockets Digest today. We appreciate you tuning in. Obviously, taking time out every day, it does not go unnoticed. And hey, if you're enjoying the content, go down there and again, hit that subscribe button. But for now, hey, it's playoffs time, Rockets fans. Let's get going.